Namaskar. Welcome to the 32nd episode of Granthayatra. Today we are going to discuss the novel Badi or The Victim by Vibhabhari Shirurkar. In the 26th episode of Granthayatra, we had introduced Vibhabhari Shirurkar as a short story writer. Between 1930 and 1940, Shirurkar's sensitive writings introduced the readers to the inner world of women's minds. This new world of women's emotions, which dawned in Marathi literature with the publication of a collection of short stories, Kalyanche Nishwas or Sighs of the Buds in 1933, expanded further with the publication of her women-centric novels On the Swing and The Dissipated Dream. In 1950, Shirurkar wrote the novel The Victim and once again jolted the readers and critics of Marathi literature. This novel is based on the lives of nomadic tribes that are full of hardships and deprivation. Shirurkar had worked as a superintendent in the Education and Welfare Department of the government of the time. When she was posted in Solapur, she got to closely observe the lives of the people branded as criminal tribes and made to live inside a wire fence. In Mumbai too, she worked amongst these so-called criminal tribes. The restlessness she felt at having witnessed the extreme poverty, decrepitude and injustice faced by these tribes resulted in the novel The Victim. The novel's protagonist Abha is born in the tribe of Mang Garudi, people whose traditional occupation was that of snake charmers. However, the people belonging to this tribe were now considered outside the caste system followed in cities and villages and had lost all means of eking out a living. As outcasts of the society, they survived on theft and robbery. To make them give up these crimes and to bring about reforms in their population, the then British government compelled them to live inside fenced enclosures. However, the British administrators of these settlements, the missionaries and the overseers appointed from among the tribespeople exploited them in every possible way. The settlements do have schools which the children are forced to attend. However, care is taken not to impart any real education or training to the students lest they become aware of their rights and demand jobs and freedom. The authorities are content to keep them ignorant and deprived. As a result, the parents are reluctant to send their children to school and instead prefer to make them work as cowherds and earn some money or do household chores. But when children skip school, the overseers send them away to boarding schools. Abha is once sent away to a boarding school for this reason. His parents plead with the authorities and bring him back, but the same night send him to a Gandhi ashram with the help of his uncle. This incident completely transforms Abha's life. He stays in the ashram for 12 years and not only acquires education but is also trained in the ways of the civilized world. He gets used to a life of clean food, clean clothes, and an equal treatment that does not discriminate on the basis of caste. Truth and honesty become a part of his nature. The novel begins when Abha returns to the settlement of the nomadic tribes 12 years later. His first reaction is that of shock and revulsion, as he has forgotten the life of deprivation. He is ashamed of his siblings wearing dirty clothes and with their hair full of dust, the helpless pleadings of his father before the white officer, and his mother worn out by caring for her 11 children. Abha feels suffocated inside his parents' shack. Look at this paragraph. Dust, dirt, germs, all bookish and taught by teachers. His mind had been carved by the science he had learnt. He could not eat that food. He didn't know what to do. He had spent his childhood in this very shack. The rats would die from plague one after the other then. His mother had set the pot of rice to boil on the earthen stove. They were all lingering around with coveting eyes and tongues since they would be getting fresh rice after days. Finally, the rice was cooked. Mother hastily served the rice on the thick quilt used for sleeping. A rat dead from plague had got cooked with the rice. They threw it away and ate the rice. Silly, Dust, dirt, and germs are not for you, not for any of you, not for the likes of you. Those who are fortunate enough to be able to put away a plate full of food, they are to consider all that science. Abba swallowed a morsel, just one. His mind that had come running after his parents was now far away from them, now that he was sitting with them. Mr. Ripon and Miss Duggan are angry with Abba for joining the Gandhi ashram and refuse to give him a letter that would help him get a job. It becomes impossible for Abba to secure a job amidst the free riot population without their letter. Because of his caste, he is denied a job in the mill, and because of his education, he is unable to sweep the streets or do the manual work of breaking the stones. Abba is thus caught in the grip of circumstances. He wants to run away from that filthy settlement colony. But where would he go? In a society that ostracizes even those belonging to the Dalit castes, who would provide shelter to a boy from a tribe branded as thieves? Gradually, the appreciation that his parents initially felt because of Abba's education and because of the hope that he would find a job wanes away. Every day he is criticized for eating food without earning it. Abba gives up all hope in life because of the apathy for education, superstition, and helplessness that he sees around him. The only solace he finds in this dreary life is the home of his aunt Zaibai, who feeds him and counsels him. His other source of emotional support is his friend from the ashram Somdat and his sister Rai, who belong to the Mang caste. Because of the scholarships available to those belonging to Mahar and Mang castes, Rai is able to continue her education and Somdat begins a small business. The nomadic tribes are not even granted this facility. But Rai is compassionate towards Abba and understands his pain. Abba derives the strength to face the conflicts in his life because of her support. Meanwhile, the communists or the red flag bearers plan a strike in the mill. Abba and his friends attend a public assembly hosted by the bearers of the red flag, and for the first time they realize that they too are human beings just like the others and deserve the same human rights. Full of a new fervor arising from this realization, they visit Mr. Barane, a communist leader. They become his assistants and advocate for the strike in the mill to the people of the settlement. However, the strike turns out to be unsuccessful because the government forces the people from the settlement to keep their mills running. Although the red flag bearers help Abba to know his rights, they cannot give him a job. On the other hand, his parents lose their jobs because Abba is now considered to be a troublemaker by the British officers. In the absence of work or income, and reeling from continuous insults, Abba is forced to steal corn from the fields when he is unable to control his hunger. But soon after, he repents this act. Meanwhile, having heard about the plight of the people in the settlement colony from Abba, some communist leaders secretly visit the locality. Newspapers begin to write stories about the state of affairs in that place. Leaders of the Congress too visit the colony. The government appoints an inquiry committee and the colony begins to see some improvements. Its occupants once again begin to regard Abba with great hope. Santu, his neighbor, believes that Abba will soon be able to find a job and plans to marry his daughter to Abba. The father and daughter plot to get Abba agree to this marriage by accusing Abba of forcing himself on Santu's daughter Nami. The community jury order Abba to marry Nami. Meanwhile, several families from the colony are taken to work at the construction site of a dam. Abba's parents and siblings too are forced to relocate there. Abba is appointed as a teacher of weaving in his settlement colony. A few days later, when Abba visits his parents at Hirangaon, he is shocked by what he sees there. The workers are starved and compelled to work at the construction site for a meager salary. In the absence of food, clothes or shelter, the workers are reduced to mere bones. When Abba reached there, some were whining with an aching stomach. Some children and even adults were shitting blood. Abba was stunned to see that reality. He was too shocked to weep. His tears were stalled by his rage. He wanted to strangle the well-fed officer standing before him. Mr. Wangdi had crushed hundreds of lives to get a salary increment and to brag that he had abolished unemployment by making hundreds work at the dam site. Abba pleads with the officers to let the workers return to their settlement colony at Panvad, but he is expelled from their office. Abba's 3 siblings die of starvation before his very eyes. When he sees the manager forcing the laborers work harder, Abba is insane with rage. He pushes a big boulder from the cliff where he is standing and kills the manager standing below. When Abba returns to Panvad, he has to face another problem. The manager at the settlement colony steals some rugs from the school and blames Abba for the theft. Abba loses his job. He is devastated to see all the values learned at the ashram being destroyed. Starvation once again forces him to commit robbery. However, this time he is saved by his former teacher from the ashram. At the teacher's instance, Abba joins the freedom struggle and finds a new goal in his life. He is imprisoned for 3 years and released after the country attains independence. The settlement colony is abolished. The people there build new huts and begin to dream of a better life. Abba gets a job in a school. He hopes for a transformation of the colony. New officers take the place of the British officers. However, the sad circle of life for the nomadic tribes keeps revolving. No one is able to secure a job or get any work. Those who are above them in the social ladder are also caught in the cycle of loss and gain and exploit those below them to make a quick buck. Some are unable to help despite genuine desire. As inflation rises, the lives of the nomads turn more wretched. Abba's parents turn beggars. In the absence of any means of earning a livelihood, the people from the erstwhile settlement plan a robbery. When Abba learns about the plan, he tries to dissuade them. He tries to convince them it would be better to die of starvation than to commit a crime, because if they commit a crime, they would forever be branded as criminals. On the other hand, if we die of starvation, at least our children would be able to live a decent life, he says. However, the starving people are in no mood to listen. Bhiva, a fellow tribesman, kills Abba by smashing his head with a stone while he is asleep for his futile efforts of clinging to hope. The novel ends here. This novel picturizes a harsh reality very effectively. It touches the contemporary social life with great force and punches its sensibilities, says Anand Yadav. Let us hear more about this novel from Dr. Vidya Devdhar, a researcher of Shirurkar's literature.
नमस्कार. विभावरी शिरूरकर यांनी गुन्हेगार जमातीच्या वसाहतीत काम करताना त्यांचं दुःख, त्यांचं जीवन समजून घेतलं आणि बळी या प्रत्ययकारी कादंबरीतून वाचकाला त्या विश्वामध्ये नेलं. दलित साहित्य ही संकल्पना 1955 नंतर रूढ झाली. या साहित्याची व्याख्या करताना दया पवार यांनी दलितांच्या दुःखाचं वर्णन केलं आहे. त्या दारुण दुःखाचा अनुभव वाचकाला बळी वाचताना येतो. पांढरपेशा समाजाने बाजूला सारलेला गावकुसाबाहेरील समाज विभावरींनी आबाच्या जीवनातून दाखवला आहे. या कादंबरीपासून मराठी कादंबरीतील अनुभवाचे क्षितिज विस्तारले असं म्हणता येईल. शिकलेल्या पहिल्या दलित पिढीच्या मनाची कुचंबणा आबाच्या पुढील निवेदनात नेमकी जाणवते. तो चिडून म्हणे, कशाला पाठवलत मला शिकायला? इथे राहिलो असतो तर रस्ते उकरायची, डांबर टाकायची लाज वाटली नसती. शिकायला पाठवलं आणि माझी अर्धी मुर्धी मान छाटून ठेवली. त्यापेक्षा मी तुमचा मुलगा नाहीच म्हणा. बोर्डिंगात आबा समता शिकला. बोर्डिंग बाहेर जात त्याच्या गळ्याशी येत होती. एका जातीत जन्माला आलो एवढ्यासाठी माणूस म्हणून जगणं कठीण का असावं हे मला कळत नाही. आबाचा हा प्रश्न शिकणाऱ्या प्रत्येक अस्पृश्य मुलाला तेव्हा पडत होता. शिकलेल्या मिळवत्या प्रत्येक दलित तरुणाला अस्वच्छ वस्तीची लाज वाटत असे. माणसाला उष्ट्या पत्रावळी चाटायला लावणारी ही गरिबी, बाईपण उपजीविकेचं साधन बनवणारी अशी ही अघोरी गरिबी आपल्याला बळीमध्ये सुद्धा दिसते. 4 मुलं पदरात असलेली आबाची आई गोऱ्या सोजीरांची वस्ती झाडायला जात असे. आधेमध्ये टोप पदरी लुगडंही घेऊन येत असे. आणि त्यानंतर एकदा ती निळ्या डोळ्याच्या गोऱ्या येशीला जन्म देते. तेव्हा आबाच्या मनात आईबद्दलच्या आदराला ठोकर बसते. आबाची मावशी त्याला समजावते, तुम्ही पार जन्माला आला म्हणून रोज शेज धरायला लागायची दुसऱ्याची चांगीला. त्या हाडांना वासना तरी होती का बाकी? तरी पोरांना पोसाया हाडं टाकते दुसऱ्यामुळं. मावशीच्या या समर्थनामुळे चांगीच्या धंद्याला मातृत्वाच्या स्पर्शाने पवित्र केलं आहे. राजकारणी लोकांचे डावपेच काँग्रेस, कम्युनिस्ट, रिपब्लिक सर्वच जण खेळत होते. सत्तेच्या स्वार्थासाठी तत्वज्ञान बाजूला ठेवणाऱ्या राजकारण्यांना पाहून आबाच्या तत्वांची कुचंबणा होत असे. कोण आपला या पेचात सापडलेल्या गोंधळलेल्या दलित मनाचं पडसाद आपल्याला बळीमध्ये दिसतात. विभावरींनी आबाचं किंवा त्या वस्तीचं दुःख भोगलं नाही, पण त्यांच्या संवेदनशील मनाने ते नेमकं टिपलं आहे. त्यातले प्रश्न समजून घेतले आहेत. विद्रोह, नकार आणि मानवता या दलित वाङ्मयाच्या तत्वत्रयीचा समन्वय आपल्याला बळी कादंबरीत दिसतो. बळीमध्ये वास्तवतेचा अपलाप नाही आणि कलात्मकताही कुठे उणावत नाही. न अनुभवलेल्या दलित जीवनाचं चित्रण दलित तरांकडून वास्तव पातळीवर होणारच नाही असाही एक सूर त्यावेळी कानावर येत असे. पण उपेक्षितांचं अंतरंग वाचकांना उलगडून दाखवणारे श्रीम माटे, विभावरी शिरूरकर यांनीच सर्वप्रथम दलित जीवनाची ओळख मराठी पांढरपेशा समाजाला करून दिली. कवी यशवंत लिहितात, ही कादंबरी वाचून हे माझे बांधव का हा प्रश्न मनात उभा राहून वाचक बेचैन होतो. हे दर्शन अतिशय वास्तव आहे, सूक्ष्म आहे आणि भीषणही आहे. खरोखरीच सामाजिक आणि हृदयस्पर्शी कादंबरी लिहून मराठी कथा वाङ्मयाची पातळी वाढवल्याबद्दल विभावरी शिरूरकर हिला धन्यवाद. समाजातील दुर्लक्षित पण महत्त्वाचे प्रश्न ललित साहित्यामधून वाचकांपर्यंत पोचवणाऱ्या, वाचकांना अंतर्मुख करणाऱ्या समर्थ लेखिका विभावरी शिरूरकर यांना विनम्र अभिवादन.
Although the novel Badi ends with the death of Abba, who is compelled to commit grave crimes such as theft, rape, and even murder, till the very end, he strives to live by moral values. On the contrary, the members of the nomadic tribe are a victim of the caste system, as they are left with no other option except to survive by begging or robbery. The officers are a victim of the greed for power and selfishness, while the entire society is the victim of an age-old social custom where exploitation of a particular class is acceptable. Not only does this novel acquaint us with the harsh social realities of the pre-independence period, but it also makes us realize that the situation has not much improved even today. It makes the readers contemplate and inspires them to advocate for social reforms. I hope you will read this book for sure. We shall meet again next Friday to read some poems that again introduce us to some harsh realities of life. Until then, keep reading.